All right. Should be recording now.
Yep.
Great. Well, today is August 10th, 2025, and I'm here doing an interview with Bruce. Bruce Towe. That's how you pronounce your last name,
Tao,
right?
actually. No, it's Tao.
Okay. Tao. Okay, Tao. Wow, that almost has a almost like a Chinese or an Asian sound to it. Bruce
Norwegian,
Tao.
actually, but it does sound like
Norwegian. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Nice. So, well, thank you, Bruce, for taking the time to do an interview. This is exciting. And I like to start all of them off with just like a kind of a Cliff Notes biography, how
okay.
you got to where you are now. And
Yeah, no,
we're
I
kind of
understand.
focusing on the theme of intuition, since that's your special what you specialize in is intuition and that kind of thing. So,
So yeah, I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I saw dead people when I was young, and I always knew things," and I wasn't quite like that. I was very sensitive. I was very aware of my environment, the things around me, people, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't think I was consciously aware that I was intuitive or psychic, and I certainly didn't see dead people per se. It wasn't really until college that I started to understand what was going on, what I was doing, because I remember talking with some of my classmates and stuff, and like one time it was just really bizarre. I'm sitting there talking with somebody and looking at them, and suddenly I said, "You don't like wearing shoes?" And he's wearing shoes at the time. He looks at me like, "No, how did you know that?" And it just came to me. I knew, and it was really kind of odd to me. And I'm like, oh, I kind of covered it up because I didn't understand it that well, and I just had this sense that I would, if I said, "Oh," I would just kind of people would think I was a little weird. Let's put it that way. Um, and then I learned that I was also able to understand people's thoughts and things. And that was interesting to understand. But I mean, it's not like I know when I'm thinking about other people, what they're thinking, things like that, unless they say something. So it's not like I'm really hearing everybody's thoughts all the time and knowing they're not mine. But it wasn't until I was working, it had been many, many more years because I kind of set that aside. I was going to do tarot work, but I was at a small Christian college and it's like, oh, tarot's evil, it's the devil work. So I bought into that for a while and then set that aside. And it wasn't until 2001, 2002, somewhere in there, that I met somebody who she was she was outside and I was outside chatting with her and she suddenly started telling me all these things about myself. I'm like, how in the hell do you know any of this? Because I had only just met her like the week before. And she started telling me about intuition and abilities and things like that. And she did tarot, and she said she encouraged me to get a tarot deck and started me on the path of working with it. And that's where I started to learn really my gifts and understand them a lot better. And it grew from there. And then I started at a small metaphysical fair and was there for 12 years. It was interesting because it was pretty intense. I mean, we were always busy. There were people who came on a regular basis. It was a small metaphysical church that it was their way of raising money, and people loved it. They had fun. They come, some of them had very serious questions, some of them just had more, they just wanted to chat and find out what's going on and have an interest in it. And that really gave me an opportunity to hone my skills along with some other things. And I learned to also pay attention to how I talk to people and what I would share, how I'd share it, because my focus is my background has always been very analytical and logical, even though I do this intuition work. So when I do readings, my focus is very much on the idea of something that's going to be of value, something that's going to make sense to you, rather than just I see spirits around you and they love you. That's great, but it's not very helpful most of the time. People come with questions, people come with needs. So I really focus on trying to help them understand that. And over the years, I've learned to really develop that skill set. And then I worked into mediumship over time, and suddenly I was actually able to start seeing spirits. Not the classic like you see in Sixth Sense, where you see them outside your body, they're very real. It's more just an awareness, an understanding. Um, kind of like a memory when you see somebody in your mind. That's more what I see if I see someone, or I think about them and I understand what they did or what it felt like to do what they did and stuff like that. So it's been a growth process, and it's not, I think a lot of people have preconceived notions of what it looks like, but a lot of times, and it varies from person to person. This is how it is for me. So, and about a year ago, I launched into this full time, and I've been very excited about the opportunity and growing and continuing to build my business and help people along the way as well.
Sounds good. And well, I actually met you through Lisa Kay. She
Right,
has
right.
a program. It's an intuition program, and um, yeah, it's really interesting just the way she has it set up. It kind of seems a little more geared toward a female niche, which I found out throughout the process. But you're one of the master intuitives there, so uh, if you want to talk a little bit about that, I mean, you
That's
take this
great.
stuff
Thank
pretty
you. Yeah.
serious.
So I ran into Lisa Kay at a metaphysical fair in Los Angeles. She was promoting her new book, Intuition on Demand, and I bought the book. And what struck me when I met her was her calmness and just this sense of awareness around her. It really was distinct. And I read the book, and as you alluded to, Andrew, it's a very interesting process. It truly teaches you how to tap into your intuition consistently for folks who aren't comfortable or used to it and things like that. And she was offering a membership in her program. So I signed up for it and started working with her, took couple of her classes, and quickly learned to advance within there, plus with my own experience and things. But when I got into it too, she kind of refocused me and tore apart some of what I had been doing, some bad habits that I'd learned because I did some of this on my own, and got me to much better focus and much better deliver quickly and accurately. And I've been with her program now for 10 years, and I've been a master intuitive with her for about 5 years. And the master, she has just the main class, main program. And you're right, it's very much, I don't know if it's really geared towards females. It just happens to be the audience because I think a lot of guys don't look at it as something that they can do, or, oh, it's feminine intuition kind of stuff. I don't know that she's really, but I think she does market more to females as well because they're an obvious audience and comfortable with the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, but then you can move to an advanced intuitive where you're working with her one on one with others, and then the master is where we continue to practice, we continue to learn and grow, but it's more mastermind kind of approach where we meet each week, we really focus on what we're trying to do, we talk to each other about what our experiences have been and where we can improve, things like that. It's been a blessing for me. It's been very, very interesting because it's been allowed me to have a safe space to practice my skills and improve upon them, but also test and work with others and against myself and against others. And as you know, she invites some of her people in her community to come and participate as sitters. And so it gives us an opportunity to both do something back for the community as well as continue to hone our skills and get immediate feedback. Because sometimes when you're doing this as a business, um, your clients don't always give you feedback. They don't necessarily give you reviews or things like that. And you're like, you don't really want to say, well, how was that? You want to say, do you understand? And then kind of move on. So it's been nice to be able to get the feedback and understand more of what works and doesn't work and how to continue to improve. Because if you're not improving or you're not trying to learn more, uh, you're probably not really doing the best you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, kind of moving on to the next thing, where do you think the most value in developing intuition is? Because how I started, I mean, I've kind of been intuitive, I guess, my whole life a little bit to some extent, but maybe more so than others in a way that I was aware of. Let's put it that way. But um, I don't even know how I found Lisa Kay, but her headline was just like "make good decisions," like be able to make it. Like it was the most basic headline, but I was like, "Oh man, I need that because I'm notoriously making bad decisions that like later regret or whatever." And so that was my draw to it. It wasn't so much like I want to read anybody, even though I do think that's interesting and cool. But it really was, well, kind of twofold. Like, oh, I want to make the best decisions I can for myself, and I think that intuitive piece is important that I was probably missing before, or just getting in the habit of really listening to that, but also communicating with my higher self like I would almost like a person. So, where do you think the value for you? What do you think the greatest value in developing intuition is?
Well, it's a tad bit ironic for me. I'm fairly self-aware, but at the same time, I'm a little like you. It's like when I'm also incredibly stubborn. So when I make a decision, I'm just going. And it's a little bit of not necessarily listening to my intuition, but I have learned to think about it more and pay more attention to it when it comes on its own. Like when I was young, one time I was in snow, I was driving, and if you've ever driven in snow driving and you understand icy conditions, it's counterintuitive that the way to stop skidding and stop sliding is to actually take your foot off the brake. And I was still fairly young, and I'm hitting the brakes hard because I'm about to run into somebody, and I hear this voice in my head that says, "Take your foot off the brake." I'm like, "Oh." And I did, and of course, then I was able to gain control of the vehicle again and avoid any problems. So I learned that at times it just speaks to me. But I've now learned with Lisa Kay's program, especially to look at it differently and kind of ask the question. That's one of her triggers is ask a question. Well, what am I going to do with this situation? And then I've learned it with clients is kind of some tricks. Like if you have an A or B situation, which one feels better? Which one looks better? How do I respond to each one? And let my intuition guide me in terms of which path is the better one and things like that. So I've learned to pay much more attention to it, although I'm still not the greatest at thinking about it when I'm doing things myself. I love doing it for other people because I'm built to help solve problems quite literally. And so I very much enjoy that. But with myself, it's more um, I have to kind of think about it. I have to pause, and given my nature, that's sometimes a little hard for me to take that step back momentarily and say, okay, what's the best next course? But I think that that is to the point, the key of if you want to develop intuition for yourself, making the better decisions, learning to take that pause, learning to ask that question, and then also understanding, which was each individual has their own way of getting it, but understanding how your intuition is going to speak to you. Is it a feeling? Is it a thought? Is it, an insight of some sort? Whatever it is, that's the important thing that happens that allows you to now understand what's going on better.
Right, and that actually brings me to the next question I thought of, which is, do you do you think people have kind of like a natural strength in terms? Because what I was thinking is like, well, it turns out that I don't just have conversations with my higher self or whatever. It's not like it's talking to me like I talk to somebody else or somebody else talks to me in person. It does come with feelings, and some people have images and things like that. I'm really kinesthetic in
Mm-hmm.
terms like athletic and stuff like that. So that's probably in terms of like my body, really kinesthetic. So I do feel things a lot, but it's like for me, it's kind of difficult sometimes to decode like what that feeling means as a message. And so I guess my question to you is, do you think everybody has kind of their strength in
Oh,
terms of,
absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely. I mean, my brother and sister and I all learned piano when we were growing up, but it was clear early on my brother had a latent and very visible talent for piano and music. He went on to be a music major, singer, played piano professionally for a while, things like that. I was miserable at it. I could plunk out the music a little bit. My sister was even worse. We neither one of us had particularly strong music talent. But intuition and to your point, like athleticism or the way, people can see patterns, or people can have this what they call intuitive common sense or things like that. And some people you can look at and they don't seem to have that same process. Um, Everybody's built differently, and that's great, and that's important to understand. So it's never a one size fits all in terms of how your intuition's working or how it's going to talk to you. And I think the key thing is to learn to pay attention first. Like you've learned to pay attention to what your body is saying, but now the next step is, okay, so it said something. How do I understand what it meant from there?
Right.
I mean, I love using language because I was an English major as an illustration. You can say the word, but without context, that word can mean almost anything. And the tone and inflection of the word can mean something different. So intuition is a language in itself. And so you need to just kind of learn to understand that language and what it's sharing and how it's sharing. It's never going to be angry or frustrating. It wants to talk to us. So it's kind of a question of how do we learn to listen the right way to understand it better?
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, so I guess if you could kind of demystify intuition a little bit for people, maybe someone's listening here and they don't know a lot about intuition and it kind of just sounds like fluffy or something, but it really is, bringing it down to earth for just ordinary people in a way. Like if you were to convey that, how would you do it?
Sure. One second. Um, I think the simplest way to think about it or look at it would be the common concept of gut instinct or those kinds of things. And the gut instinct is interesting because, like what you say, it's more kinesthetic. It's something you feel down in your gut. You have a nervous stomach, or your stomach feels tight, or you feel warm, or things like that. People are aware of that. But again, it's not necessarily that they are paying attention to it or understanding what it's saying. They're like me, they just plow ahead kind of thing, or they don't really pause long enough to say, well, I have this feeling. Why do I have this feeling kind of thing? Um, so it's there for everyone, and it's really not mysterious. How do I mean, you could get into the metaphysics of its being energy, and we're aware of energy and things like that, which I think is valuable and honest, because I think we assume always that we have the five senses, and that used to be people talked about the sixth sense, which it kind of is, but again, that sixth sense comes in so many different ways. It's kind of like, okay, really, is it a sixth sense, or is it a whole different way of understanding things? But our bodies are capable of understanding and sensing energy as well. And much as we see light, we hear sound, we feel heat, our body understands or receives energy. And each of us processes it slightly differently. Well, we all may hear or see or feel energy, but again, like other things, we have different strengths for it. So it's not really mysterious. It's just there. It's part of our environment. It's just a question of, are we in tune with that energy? Are we in tune with our ability to receive and understand what's going on around us that we're really not necessarily always paying attention to, especially in Western world where we're taught very much the visual, very much the logical, I can see it, feel it, touch it, otherwise it doesn't exist kind of mindset. So I think opening up and saying there's a little bit more beyond that is the first step, and then not being afraid of it, and not being, and it can be confusing and frustrating because it's like, well, it's there, but now what? So programs like Lisa, or just really being patient and practicing with yourself. I love like little exercises, like, okay, I used to do this one going to work, that depending on, I had like four different routes I could go from my house to work. and they all had stoplights and things like that. So in the morning, I'd sit in the driveway and I'd say, which way is the best way? And then I could get immediate feedback as to which way was. I asked my intuition, which way is going to be the best way? And then it would come back and give me an answer, and I could immediately see, yeah, I got it right. I understood what my intuition was saying, or oh, nope, that didn't work today. Or it could have been that all the routes were the same and it really didn't matter. But you get that understanding, you get that opportunity to practice without having anything really elaborate or complicated to try and do.
Yeah, it's funny. I had that same experience. I was going to work and I just had the nudge to take a right and go away and never go because the light's always red. It's like one of those streets where the light's always red going north and south. And I was just like, oh, I'll go this way this time. And sure enough, it's green that day. So,
Exactly. See,
so
that's the kind
yeah,
of thing
so
that can happen for you.
right. So if you were to, I guess, give some fun exercises, something practical that people could use to test it out. I mean, that one that you just shared is a really good one. Going, choosing a route. If some people work from home nowadays, maybe you're going to the store or something. But are there any other like pretty simple ones that people could pick up real quick and just have fun with, develop the intuition?
Oh yeah, I mean, like when you talk about going to the store, especially anymore, um, it's like a lot of the places don't have all the checkouts anymore. So, and if you're like me and I buy a ton of stuff and self checkouts not very practical. It's like, okay, which cashier is going to be the fastest line? You look at it visually and you see three people in one and four or five people in the other. You think, oh my God, that's going to take longer. But sometimes that two or three people, there's one person in there that's got the nightmare scenarios, and oh, I needed this, and oh, I didn't have that, and oh, my card didn't work. And it takes them twice as long as the four or five people in the other line. So that's a great way, and it's very practical because one, you get the immediate feedback, and two, if you're understanding your intuition, you're getting through the grocery lines a lot faster, and you're happier. That's an opportunity for something. Another one would be kind of like sensing, being aware of the energy of a place or something when you go there. How do you feel? It's kind of that pause of what am I sensing? And it doesn't have to be anything nefarious. It doesn't have to be anything amazing. It's just more of a getting into the habit of asking yourself or being more aware of that other part of you that has that sensitivity to energies and locations and people, and saying, oh, there's a feeling here. Sometimes it's completely neutral, but sometimes it's not. But we may not consciously think about that. And the pause and the opportunity to think about it more consciously is the thing that you want to look for. And oh, this place feels warm and welcoming, or this place feels cold and institutional, or this place feels like there was an angry thing going on here. And you find out maybe, yeah, somebody had an argument in that room, before you, or something like that. Or you go to the doctor's office and, some of them, they feel really warm and comfortable. And you're like, I feel happy and comfortable here. And I know I'm going to get a good service. Or you feel like, oh my gosh, and also kind of being aware of how people are around you, because I think sometimes, especially the more sensitive of us, we're picking up stuff and we're not consciously aware of it. And then we're kind of like inheriting or taking on some of that emotion or that energy. And then we start to feel it ourselves. And it's like, okay, what happened? I was in a good mood 10 minutes ago. Now I feel like, what? So that energy, being aware of it helps you be more aware of yourself as well. So I think those are things that can help you kind of start to understand it more and experience it more, and and have patience, because like a little kid, they're just exploring the world. They don't think about things. They don't consciously say, oh, well, this is a table and this is what this is going to do. They just experience it. And so, being willing to just kind of go with the flow of the experience, not necessarily put a whole lot of judgment on it, and more just observe it, I think is going to be a key part to understanding it and helping to appreciate it more, and see where it goes. And then, like language is naturally going to unfold for you at that point.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because it's I mean, you look at pretty much any ancient tradition, the theme of being like a child kind of comes up in some way, one way or another. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
And so, especially with something like intuition, kind of being a little playful about it and having a curiosity, questioning, inquisitive mind like that, where exploring the possibilities, not taking it so serious necessarily, um, especially for someone who's new with it. So now I'm wondering what you think the future of intuition for humanity. So I'm kind of moving around my chair because the sun keeps moving through the tree right in the camera. I'm having a hard time getting just right. Ah, that's
That's an
better.
interesting question. I don't think about it myself a lot in terms of where humanity is going with intuition. But when I read others and kind of pay attention to what's going on now, even versus say 30, 40 years ago when I was in college and growing and learning and stuff like that, um, I feel like there's definitely a greater acceptance and awareness of something beyond just the physical, something beyond just what we can see, feel, touch. Um, and I also believe that it will allow us to have greater appreciation for, the diversity within us, because again, we all have different ways of experiencing these things, and intuition kind of bypasses our preconceived biases about the world, because it doesn't look at it the way we were taught to look at things, because we weren't taught any of it. So it's like a fresh start, so to speak. So I think that it allows us to see things a lot differently and be more open to what the potential is for what's going on. Is everybody going to become intuitive? Is everybody going to be, I hear this, the world is ascending and lightning and everything else. And I think over time, hundreds of years perhaps, yes, I think that more and more and more people will become that. Maybe it won't take that long, because just like our technology and everything else, everything seems to be accelerating. But at the same time, I'm allowing for the fact that there's a lot of things that have to shift to be, for everybody to be completely intuitive, telepathic, light being kind of energies, which I look at it, we're still where we're at, and we still have bodies and we have everything we have to deal with in this world. And until that changes, I don't think we're going to be, you know, walking around as energy beings for a while. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, well, in a way, we already are, but it's just
Well,
a
yes, that's a good point.
physical energy. But yeah, I understand what you're talking about. So, I guess with all your experience now, you're a master intuitive. You have been for 5 years, and even before that. Okay, so how many years total would you say you've really been into it?
22 years.
22 years. Okay, so you have a lot of experience with intuition, working with people, and using it with yourself for your own decision making and things like that. So, with everything you've learned now, what is one thing that you would like? I'm kind of directing this for our country, America, but it can extend out to the world. Like, what is one thing that you've really learned and applied in your own life and has made a positive difference that you would like to see others experience and benefit from around in the world and in our country?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. Um, I think in working with all the clients and also with my own life, I would like people to understand we are capable and we are built for so much more than we allow. I mean, and I know people are going to look at it like, yeah, well, that's great, but you don't have to worry about the job because you're working on your own, things like that. I still have to pay bills. I still have to feed myself. I still have to drive a car. All those things that are physical. That's the thing that frustrates me a little bit is when people talk about, you know, getting enlightened or raising their vibration, they're thinking that magically everything's going to fall into place and nothing has to be any hard anymore. And I'm not saying it has to be hard, but it still has to happen. But my point being is that we limit ourselves, or we end up focusing too much on just getting through the day. And I understand there's a lot of circumstances where that's necessary, but at the same time, it isn't always what we have to do. And I don't have, I'm not articulating this as why I'd like to. My point being is that we're so much more than just the job, just the family, just the relationship. We are still everything we always have been, and we forget that. And so if we start to remember that more, we start to be more compassionate and more to ourselves and to others. Because I look at people and it's like, okay, that's horrible, the experience you're having. But I also look at you and I see that amazing, bright light within you that has love, that has compassion, that has caring, that has gotten a little bit forgotten or a little bit lost. Let's bring that back up. Let's bring a little bit more joy. Let's bring a little bit more laughter into your life. And the things that you're doing, the things you're experiencing, the things you're dealing with will get easier. They may not change at all in terms of how they're actually happening, but they're easier because you're seeing them differently. You're experiencing them differently. And I think that's a big thing that we can all learn and grow from because of that.
I really like that. And I've been reading, well, reading and listening to some ascended master teachings. And I'm not sure if you've ever been exposed to any of those, but they're really deep. And for me, a very pure energy comes through. Like it's different. It's distinctly different than anything else. Like it didn't feel like it came from a human, personally to
Right.
me.
I know what you
Um,
mean.
but anyway, there's kind of a theme there, and that is that really we are divine beings and we're expressing ourselves as humans. So that's kind of the basis of it. And I think that to what you're talking about, we get so caught up in our human identity that we forget this divine greater identity, which is in a way like I like using the video game metaphor, like we're like video gaming planet Earth, our human our human experience, our
Avatar?
human life. Yeah, exactly. It's like an avatar video game in a way, you know. Um, but yeah, getting too caught up in the human identity part of it, and I think from those higher levels, it is very much, to speak back to the intuition piece, very much rooted in states of being and feelings and these kinds of things, obviously bringing other senses into it, but especially like you mentioned the compassion and these kinds of qualities, I guess you could say, kind of shine more through people who have an expanded sense of their divine identity, not just the human identity. What do you think of that?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. 100% agree there. And I think that's a different way of saying kind of what I was aiming for with what I was trying to share is that we forget we're we're not just physical.
Mm-hmm.
We have a beautiful mind that really wants to explore and expand, and we have a heart that wants to love and share, and we have a soul that wants to experience it all and be aware of the beauty and joy that's around us. And when we forget that, it becomes the grind. It becomes the day to day. And Western society, sadly, especially in America, I feel like we've really hammered that idea. I think there's a large part of us that does kind of understand this, but we've become quiet.
Hmm.
The parents are fighting, so the kids kind of get quiet.
Mhm.
You know, you watch the people at each end of things going and arguing, and it's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm just watching for now. And I'm not saying we have to rise up and say stop fighting, although that would be good. But the point being is that we're trying to keep our heads down so we don't get whacked on it. And I think that's perfectly understandable, but I also don't want it to be that we lose sight of what we can do just by expressing our own self. By, a lot of my, I write a monthly newsletter, and a lot of my newsletters are focused on the idea of the little things that we do every day that can and do make a difference. Because when I was very young, I had the idea, and it became kind of a concept for me, that what we do multiplies, it ripples outward, and it doesn't necessarily lose energy depending on what it is or how it is, but it continues to roll, it continues to grow and have a path and an influence on the things around us. And and so it's important that we remember it's sometimes just the little stuff. It's smiling at somebody, it's being nice to somebody, it's taking a breath and not getting angry at someone on the road that changes that energy and allows a little bit more of that compassion, that love, that exploration and curiosity to continue to breathe. And that's going to make a difference for everybody because, again, as we've talked about earlier in the call, we're energy. We sense that energy. So the more we build that energy of the good stuff, the more it's present around us, the more it's going to influence the weather, so to speak, and the climate we're in, so that we all start to shift that direction better.
Absolutely. I agree right there 100%. And I know I told you about the heart math stuff that I did. I got a certification in the program through heart math called Building Personal Resilience. And for me, it really connects the dots between stuff we're talking about with intuition and then, like we're talking about now, kind of more practical little things that we do in our life that maybe not seem so energy focused or whatever, but it really is because as they teach in the program, our heart generates an electromagnetic field,
Right.
and it's the biggest electromagnetic field produced by any of our organs. And um, that field is full of energy. That's what the electrical energy going through the magnetic field produced by our heart. It's information, and it's information that's communicating with everything else. So sometimes it can seem like, well, maybe more in the past to people who aren't familiar with this kind of stuff, but it really is scientific, and I think as we move forward into the future, we'll understand that a lot more in scientific terms that scientists use. But the heart math is they're making strides in doing that, and I think more people can learn about that and understand the heart, the importance of the heart for one, but just the energy side of it all, because like you're saying, we are energy beings too, and bringing more of that into our identity, it's it's expansive, and it can help us recognize, like you're talking about, we're capable of a lot more than we give ourselves credit. And yeah, basically just put more of the best of ourselves out there and create that for the world too.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I have understood and read about the fact that our heart does have its own energy field, so to speak. It's a measurable electrical field. Um, and it's very striking the fact that that is there and that, people say, well, how do you know what other people are experiencing or thinking or feeling? And it's like, well, gee, I don't know. If you're standing near them and that electrical field's there, again, my point being is we're sensing it, whether or not we're aware of it.
Oh, exactly. And I'm not gonna reference it now because I know I'll butcher it, but there are some really interesting research studies kind of focused more around the intuition part of the heart's intelligence that heart math have done, where um yeah, I can't off the top of my head, I can't, but I'll 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 try to find them and put them in the description to the video
Oh, great.
so
Okay.
that other people can find them. But yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. We have so much more we're capable of that people just kind of forget about. Really, maybe they were never taught it, um, but there's a lot there. So, if you'd like to talk about your services, Bruce, and um,
Oh, wow. Cool. Thank
yeah, I know you have a. Sorry, I'm right back in the sunlight thing again.
you.
It like goes straight on my screen and I can't see it. Okay, that's better. So I know you have a practice where you provide intuitive services and also healing services, which definitely helped me because I don't know how many people I might know, but I had some health stuff going on, and basically the doctors couldn't help me. And not only could they not help me, but I wasted my money
Oh,
like
ouch.
one after the other. Yeah, so you've helped me there, and yeah, if you'd like to just talk about what you offer and the value there.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. So I have a website, um, and I created it with the name and the concept of helping people, kind of like what I talked about, understanding themselves more and stuff. So my website is truthweaver.com, just one word. And it it kind of played off the idea of a tapestry of life kind of thing initially, and then I kind of evolved from there. It's just still where it is. But to your point, I offer intuitive psychic services where I can help clients with understanding their circumstances, what's going on, relationships, work, those kinds of things. If they don't have specific questions and just want to understand things, I work with that as well. I still do some tarot card work, which is where I started a lot of this. But at the same time, now I'm much more comfortable and do a lot of just awareness and tapping into what my intuition and my guides are sharing in terms of what's going on in a person's life and experiences and things like that. But again, with what I do from my work before, I was in finance for 20, 30 some years. And I managed people and I delivered on systems and technology and things like that. So I have a very grounded, logical, delivery focused kind of mindset. So I don't just leave you with a bunch of fluff. I want to make sure you have an understanding and that you've got the questions to the best of my ability answered and you know where to go next. Although I will never tell you what to do, I will guide you in what's the best ways and why they look the best. But ultimately, you have to make your own decisions on things. Um, and so I have that, and then I have mediumship as well. And I find that to be really rewarding from the perspective of helping people who have loss of loved ones or want to connect with people. Like my own parents passed away many years ago, um, and while I still sense the loss, it's not like I grieve daily for that. But it is for me an amazing experience to hear their perspective now on what I'm doing that they see since they've passed because my life now is a fair amount different than when they were alive. And to hear them say they're proud of me, to hear them say they're supportive of what I'm doing means a lot. I mean, they were my parents. I wanted to have their their support and their love. So hearing it means a lot to me, even though like I said, I don't necessarily grieve their loss. So it doesn't have to be that, oh, I lost somebody, I want to hear from them and know they're okay. That absolutely is important, but it can go beyond that. I don't want people to think that they can have to limit it and things like that. And it doesn't always have to be really close family or friends that you've lost. It can be other people. I've had a lot of other relatives come through who share how much alike they are to the person that's sitting in front of me, or the things that they need to have a different perspective on because they're not looking at things the way that, and giving them that broader understanding. So mediumship can do a lot of amazing things. And thank you. I'm really grateful to hear that the healing has helped you so much. I do energy healing work. I am a Reiki master, but I also kind of incorporate just a little bit more of my own perspectives on the energy work and things. And much as I love physics, I absolutely love science, and I delve into it. And there's all these concepts about that energy doesn't have to be bound by time or distance. And when I work with people from an energetic perspective, that becomes very apparent. You know, somebody can be on the other side of the world and I can still have the same effect on them as if they were sitting in the room with me. So it's not like that it has to be anything that way, but it, you know, and my, again, from there, it's a focus of understanding what your body's sharing and doing, and it's the energy body as well as the physical body that I'm working with and helping, because you know we kind of have a little like the Russian dolls. We have these energy bodies that are reflective of what's going on inside of us physically, as well as the emotions and the mental part of it that all influence how we are. So working with those and dealing with that kind of stuff helps the physical as well as your own mental and emotional experience too. So I offer that as well, and I enjoy all of them. And again, it's the concept of helping people solve problems and understand who they are and raise their awareness of their potential and give them a opening the door more to where can you go? Where are you going to go with that new awareness?
All right, awesome. And I thought of another question or two.
Okay.
So we'll do that. But real quick, I'll give a little testimonial. Um, I think it was last year, actually. I think it was last year. My dog was having some problems. She's since passed. Cleo, she made it 15 and a half years.
It's
Really,
amazing.
really, yeah, long, healthy life. But she was having some accidents inside, which older dogs do. But she 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 didn't have too many accidents like that inside, and so it was like 3 times in a week, which was really weird and rare. So I linked up with Bruce and had an intuitive reading with him, and he told me that he didn't think it was age related or anything like that. It was her getting into some like bad water in our backyard, and sure enough, there was a bucket of nasty like black water just sitting there, all gross and stinky. And so I dumped it, obviously, and that solved that. So I've experienced firsthand that uh, that intuitive, the value of that intuitive service, and gave me a lot of relief, really, because it's like, oh no, my dog, is she finally at that stage? Which she wasn't. She still had, I think that was last like November or something like that. So she still had another 6 months in her after that, and pretty much right to the end, she was pretty good. Um, so thank you for that. There's a testimonial.
Thank you.
But also, I was thinking of a podcast. Have you ever heard of Cliff High?
Uh-uh.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with this stuff, but some friends and teachers of mine have shared podcasts that I've heard, and the dude comes across as very intelligent and smart. And anyway, in this podcast I'm thinking of, he was talking about the consciousness arts. I loved that way of talking about them, but he was talking about kind of like the intuition, ESP type things, and then healing, just these things that are more emerging now than ever
Mhm.
before into the mainstream, more mainstream, I guess you could say. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on the consciousness arts, because I'm assuming that the people who will be listening to this are in one way or another drawn to those. And so if you have maybe some advice, practical, for people who like yourself have some kind of gifts within the consciousness arts and they want to be of service and help others, what would you share?
Oh, um,
As it's emerging, it's really beginning to emerge, especially the next 5 or 10 years. I think it's going to be huge for our
right.
society. And I'm sure it's probably like what he talks about on the podcast is there are going to be specializations. Like it's going to be taken a lot more seriously in the future than it is now, because they'll realize where these are important strengths that can be applied to certain areas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um, I get that's a really interesting but tough, broad question at the same time. For my own reaction, the first thing that comes to mind is to remember that not everybody has to do everything or be the same way. I chose the path of what I'm doing and doing this to help people and be professional at it because one, it was just kind of an evolution for me as to where I wanted to be in terms of how I was. I mean, when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor or a therapist or things like that. I was, like I said, I was built to help. I'm built to solve the problems that people experience. So this was a different expression of that energy that was already part of who I was. But like my brother, beautiful, amazing music, things like that. But he chose a life that allowed for the creativity to be expressed in a different way. He became a consultant. He never really gave up his music, other than his hands became a challenge, so he can't play piano or anything like that anymore. But he channeled that creativity into a different area and still used it to really broaden people's experiences and help them and do the things in a way that made him comfortable with how he wanted to share himself. And my point being is that not everybody's going to do things. I mean, not everybody has to be a doctor. Not everybody has to be a lawyer. Not everybody has to be a teacher. We're all built differently. So not everybody who has these gifts has to go out and be a reader or a medium or a life coach or anything like that. It is, again, those little things every day of opening your energy and things like that, or touching other people within your sphere that's just there. And opening it up and talking about it. Look at it like a little bit of like your own religions or philosophies or spirituality. When you share that with people, you're not being a preacher, you're not being a minister, but you're sharing your experience and you're allowing other people to see a different perspective or to, oh, okay, and maybe they understand it more and different things like that. So that's the first thing. Second thing would be kind of as you're growing with all of this, pay attention to what makes sense for you. Not one of the amazing things to me about this whole metaphysical spiritual world is we all come at it differently. And none of it is necessarily wrong, and not any of it is necessarily 100% right. We're doing it much as our cultures are. You know, we have Western culture, we have Eastern culture, we have European languages, we have American languages, we have Indo languages. We all do things differently, and that's okay. And I think remembering that is important. We don't all have to follow the same path to get to the same destination. And I think it's important to allow that openness, that exploration, that curiosity, and not feel like, oh, well, that's the person who has the answer, because that's not necessarily the case. They may have an answer, and they may have an answer that works for you, but that answer may not work for you. So be okay with yeah, that's not the way I want to go. I want to go over here. I want to try this, or I'm more shy or introverted. I'm not going to go out and stand on a stage and talk to people. Great, you don't have to. So I don't know if that really answered the question the way you were looking for, but that was the reactions and the thoughts that came to mind as you were asking the question you presented.
Yeah, I think that answers it. And do you have any maybe like questions that people can ask themselves if they're in a position where they want to use their gifts more, and that's not necessarily professionally, but maybe maybe professionally, but even just personally, what can kind of spur people to build a little momentum in that direction of using their gifts and finding their place in the world?
I think the biggest one is trusting.
Okay.
Um, that was a big one for me. And that was one of the funny things is Lisa Kay, one of her introductory programs is trust yourself. And while I'm built to help people, I grew up being very uncomfortable and learning that, well, I'm different, so I have to not be this way and things like that. So I didn't trust my own self very much. And I think a lot of people who are sensitive are going to be the same way. So the key thing is to trust yourself and to trust what's happening. It's not that it's always 100% right. We don't make 100% right decisions in anything we do. So
Mhm.
to expect that from your intuition when nothing else is like that is really mean to yourself and is going to put a big barrier in place of what you're trying to do. But trusting that it is there, trusting that it's doing its best to share with you is a big thing, and having fun with it. I have a tendency, a lot of people chide me for being very serious, and I'll acknowledge I am, but I also try and have fun, and learning to have fun and being more open and exploratory and curious is going to really make a difference in how you experience this and allow for that growth and the expansion of your gifts much more readily.
Got it. Got it. And I'll just share this because I was thinking about it earlier. Um, I was kind of thinking how imagination is the more dynamic flip side to the coin of intuition. What do you think of that?
A lot of people would say, and Lisa Kay would even say this, especially, imagination is the language of intuition.
Okay.
And so I think you can look at it that way. But I think we think of imagination as this nebulous, not real. And I think that's the danger of using that word is because we instantly now think it's not real, whereas intuition is 100% real.
Mhm.
And so it may be the language of intuition, but to say, I think Western people kind of think imagination is just out there, not really real. So I'd hesitate to use that approach, but I do say that like I said, when I'm working with mediumship or like when I'm working with you or things like that with intuition, sometimes I know things, sometimes I feel things, and sometimes I see things. Well, I'm not seeing a real image that is outside of me. I'm seeing something in my head, which is what my imagination is using to help me understand and deliver the message. So, yeah, it's there. It's part of what we do and how it works, but just don't think about it as being how you normally think about imagination as this unreal stuff. Think about it more like how we process memories or how we see things in our mind.
Right, right. That's a good point because there is kind of a grounded reality to imagination that may not be apparent just when you think of the word itself.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So last question is, do you teach intuition, or is that purely through Lisa Kay that you would refer people who want to maybe develop that part of themselves to just have instruction from somebody who's kind of further along the path than they are?
That's a great question. I would at the moment, if people really are serious about developing intuition as a tool, or as something that they really want to learn with, I would refer them to Lisa Kay as an absolutely 100% excellent opportunity
Okay.
um, to grow with and to learn with. I am looking at, in a couple months, probably putting out an introduction to tarot course that's more intro, there's more intuitive work rather than the common, here's the meaning of a card and here's how you work with it. But as a rule, I'm not in the point of or the process, and I don't know when I may as time goes on. I've still got a few years left to go, I think, in my life. I'd like to think that anyway. Of I may evolve into it. A lot of people do end up being teachers. I enjoy teaching, absolutely. But right now, I'm much more enjoying the opportunity to help people kind of one-on-one through readings or through discussions and things like that, like this, and through my net of my I can't think of the word all of a sudden, newsletters. Than I am like teaching a class or a program or things like that. But so that's probably what I would say. Right now, if you're really super serious, I would go to Lisa Kay. Check back with me. Keep an eye on my website. I'm going to start building an events page and other kinds of things to say, here's what I'm doing. So as I grow into doing and delivering on like my tarot class or things like that, absolutely that's going to be out there. But for the moment, no, I'm probably not planning on jumping into a major program like what Lisa does.
Okay, got it. Sounds good. So, anybody who's watching this who wants to get a hold of Bruce, it's www.truthweaver.com, right?
I just dropped the www.
Okay.
A lot of it doesn't have to have that anymore, so it's just
Okay.
truthweaver.com.
Okay. Truthweaver.com.
Yep.
And there you can book a session with him. And yeah, he's got some different available services. So, highly recommended. And I appreciate this interview and taking the time to talk, Bruce. So, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to talking next time.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been wonderful. You've been
Yeah.
really good questions and some really great discussion. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you. You've been a good person to work with all this time.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right.
You as well. Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye bye.